It's an amazing, I think, for everybody within Irish rugby to be able to see Jordie Barrett play in the URC and hopefully the latter stages of the Champions Cup next season for Leinster. We know he has a bit of Irish heritage with his family, and he's played a good bit back home, and he signed a contract extension, I think, until 2028 with New Zealand Rugby and the Hurricanes. So after 6 months, then he'll go back out there. The other thing is, Donny, I don't believe this signing's like breaking the bank. I don't think he's going to be on for 400,000 or 500,000 pounds for 6 months' work. Like it's not going to be like him going to Japan for an 8 month season, whatsoever. I think, of course, he'll be getting well paid, but I think everybody just automatically assumed that he's now a £1 million player for 6 months at Leinster, and I don't believe that's the case. Um, I listened to, I think it was Jacob Stockdale got asked a question about it yesterday, or the day before, and he was sort of saying, how fortunate Leinster are in the position because of so many guys that are centrally contracted, and does it free up a bit more money to be able to go and sign, World Cup winning All Blacks, and it's easy when you're winning. Like when Manchester United were winning Champions Leagues and they were winning the league every single year, they could go and get Robin van Persie from Arsenal just to finish off his career and to win a league title. Why? Because they're winners. They're winning every single year. They're a really good team that are evolving. They've brought in new coaching staff with Jackson Nienaber. Looks like Tyler Blenheim obviously going to go in there next season again, progressing even further. Where players and coaches and CEOs aren't getting sacked, they're leaving or they're moving on to other opportunities. Like it's just a really good culture to be involved in at the minute, and no wonder Jordie Barrett wants a piece of it. I'm sure he can also take a lot out of Leinster to bring back um, to the All Blacks and to the Hurricanes. And yeah, it's a very cute signing, and I'm sure Robbie Henshaw and Gary Ringrose and a couple of others are glad that he hasn't signed for 2.5 years or 3.5 years, and that he's only going to be knocking around for a while. But he's definitely going to be starting in their team. But it's a huge coup, and it's a huge talking point within Irish rugby. And I know there's been a number of comparisons to like Ruan Pinar get shipped on from Ulster because Gibson Park was coming into the RFU, and Cooney obviously needed to get more game time at Ulster, or there was a bit of mix and matching with players moving around, and they're going like, well, what's the story here? Like Nankivell's at Munster, and you've obviously the Irish centres and Bundy Aki and every. Why would you sort of try and dilute that a little bit with bringing in Jordie Barrett? But the RFU and Leinster have obviously been in communication about this deal. It's going to be hugely beneficial for Leinster, and it's probably going to be beneficial to Ireland as well because their main centres are going to get a few more weeks rest along the way. Of a big campaign next season, especially leading towards a Lions tour. So it's a smart bit of business. Every other province, I'm sure, is going flipping heck. Like why are Leinster getting this treatment? Why are Leinster getting this treatment? I don't believe there is. Just because a team's doing well, it doesn't mean that you can hate on them. Like for making good signings, and it's about time Munster, Ulster, and Connacht stepped up and started to deliver on the pitch, and started to make inroads and trying to catch Leinster and close that gap because at the minute it only seems to be getting further away. And Donny, it was only a couple of seasons ago you and I were sitting talking, saying that Ulster were sort of closing the gap, and Munster, obviously with their big win last year in the URC, looks like they're closing the gap, but it almost feels as far further away as ever, doesn't it? It does, and um, it's up to the other teams. Leinster are just going to keep doing what they're doing. The number of Irish internationals that are playing week in and week out, and we'll see where it takes us over the next couple of seasons. But yeah, just finally, huge coup for Leinster. Jordie Barrett, immense player, unbelievable quality that he'll bring to the dressing room in there. And I look forward to working on a few games for him playing next season. A little bit, yeah. Obviously, team selection was a talking point with Josh van der Fleer put onto the bench. I think I can remember back to only 2012, and we obviously reached the Heineken Cup final. back then against Leinster, and we got absolutely dominated. I think 43 points to 18 or something like that. It was in the final, but in the semi-final, we beat Edinburgh in the Aviva Stadium, and we were walking around with Ulster flags above our heads and like singing and cheering and like amazing. All the Ulster fans give them what they want. Like we've done it, we've done it. We've done nothing. We've done absolutely nothing. Hadn't won anything. And I remember chatting to a number of Leinster players, and they were like, they watched us celebrate after that game, and they were like, look at those guys. They think they've already won this competition. They've won nothing. They're not in the right headspace. We get stuck into them early. Let's see what they're made of. And obviously, we folded, especially in that second half. And again, I just looked at some of the celebrations at the weekend from the Leinster players, and I know it was a huge game and it meant a hell of a lot. La Rochelle, after losing to them on a couple of occasions, compared to Edinburgh, who you're expected to beat, in a semi-final probably every day of the week at home, is hugely different. It's hugely different. There's going to be a lot of different emotions, but I just hope that they don't get carried away. They can't get carried away just with an emphatic victory against the Champions Cup champions, and that they keep moving on, they keep moving forward. And I think they will. I think they will. I don't think they're going to be anything like we were back then because they've a lot more leadership, a lot more quality, a lot more nice in the latter stages of the competition than Ulster ever had. But it was the first time that I've seen a Leinster side like really savor the moment, really enjoy it. And maybe it was just to rub it in the noses of La Rochelle because they did it to them so much, and quite possibly. But it's a really interesting narrative that I'll sort of be keeping an eye on heading into the semi final. It's been hugely challenging for Ulster Rugby over honestly, the last 6 months. And like I know there was a couple of tweets put out by me after the game. One just saying how much this isn't a quick fix really for Ulster Rugby. You look at that second half and how poor it was, and they get physically dominated, and it's just a recurring theme all season is how physically dominated Ulster are getting. Especially around set piece, they couldn't win a line out in the second half. Scrum went to crap again at the end of the game. Albeit they were already getting pumped by 30 or 40 points. But yeah, there was this tweet, obviously, back from Stuart McCluskey. He was obviously hurt, thinking that I was saying, "Oh, look how good 2014 team was compared to the 2024 team." But the reality is, Stuart, that both teams won nothing, and both teams got bowled out of a quarter final in the European Cup, and one which I wasn't even playing in the starting 15. So I think it was maybe just taken the wrong way, and like I get that and I understand that. That's no problem. Donny, as well as anyone, when you work in the media, you got to have a very thick skin, and that's something that I had to deal with very much so. The amount of hate that went my way, like off his reply, was just off the charts. If you keep reading down through the comments, like it's personal attacks, it's like questioning, your work ethic and what you bring to your job, and like people questioning my grammar and people questioning like, why is this guy working in the media? Like, he isn't. He thinks he's entitled to an opinion. Like, you know, there was also other stuff that I'm not going to get even into, but that wasn't me that opened that can of worms, and that's what I think is important here. That I just put out a tweet about two teams that both lost a quarter final, that both have really good players in it, maybe more leadership and quality in the 2014 team, but there's still a young group of guys in the 2024 team that need to come out and express themselves. And I'm sure they'll do that over the next couple of seasons. But Stuart's reply was absolutely to start, negativity towards me. And that's fair enough. Like that's grand. I'm well enough used to it. And next time I see him, I'm not gonna blank him or say, "Oh, what was that all about? Year this, year that." Like I'll just laugh it off and say, best luck for the season, and hopefully you get your move to Bayonne next year.